Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon hour, moon night. And the moon is ruling at 28 degrees Cancer ascendant, and moon is 22 degrees Leo. With midheaven ruled by Mars at 19 degrees Aries. So while we caretake for a video here, I want to give a little bit of an energy reading. And for this energy reading, some of you have been in a situation that is a part of something that is actually global, and some of you may even have the insight to the local dynamics around that, but it's actually global. October astrology. Let's put a neutral thing in. And there is a process in MK Ultra I don't know what it's called, but it's about the creating of a trauma bond. So some of you have been in a situation where you're being put through something, and then usually a certain figure would be presented as the figure that you're supposed to develop that unhealthy trauma-based relation to. Now, what happened was that what was created instead was that you began to feel genuine, authentic, amiable feelings, particularly if you understood that all of the figures were involved as well, and they were going through such things as well, at the same time as not compromising your truth. And this is something that's happening in the collective, and basically curating relational patterns with at least the you part in the collective that has undergone the certain rites to supposedly traumatically bond you with someone. And this is a situation where the more they expect you to not hold on to your truth, even publicly, because of amiable trauma bond, the more you have an authentic, amiable connection that will not here's the part that's interesting. The way of creation of a trauma bond is that people sometimes are nice to one another and sometimes are not. And what it did for you is actually holding on to your truth even more, because you felt like, hey, even that pillar that was supposed to be the comfort zone or the savior or the one to hold on to is not always being consistently someone I can absolutely and totally lean on. And and that began to expose a series of things around all of the collective, um, both within the energy that was supposed to be kind of like the savior energy, and within you. If there was a trafficking situation involved, it might even gone to a certain crisis where somebody has like something about whether it's their gender preference or whatnot, and the other party or the collective might be, well, don't traffic people. Like, don't force people into intimate situations that they're not actually willingly, consensually partaking in. And and what was created is that you're holding on to your truth, and the more that there was an attempt to oscillate between being nice and being, or even between creating confusion, you just begin to have your own pillar within this traumatic situation, which is your truth, and you begin to express it more and more, not losing the amiable feelings towards the person, but not attaching yourself to a place that's absolutely not going to be the place you can lean on, kind of like forever and after, because of many reasons. So in that process, what was supposed to basically create a trauma bond began to create and strengthen your own pillar of truth in a way that um, began to even curate your relational patterns, or if they were healthy, they began to become like, even you began to develop an even more safe relation with you, is what I'm saying. Now that became a little bit of a, I talked about a while ago on my Spirit of Matter channel on YouTube, as something that was called a Trojan horse of love. And what I mean by that, in retrospective, is that you became that Trojan horse of love, where your relation to yourself and your truth became your safe relation. So you became your own pillar, while not losing the amiable feelings, but also not attaching. And it began to work like a domino effect, that you began like this. When I talk about this golden ages energy vortex, you became this golden ages energy vortex where everything is like dominoing around you. Like, people can't be mad at you for long, because you will just hold on to your truth with non-attachment, and you would also kind of amiably hold accountable the people that you don't come with this hater energy. And this is exactly the point. You don't come with this hater energy because you kind of like, okay, that like there is this military operation, there is this gate project, there is this MK Ultra project. Those people are probably mind controlled too. And then it's kind of like a detachment and realization of the truth, or even on a more local, the realization of the dynamics, kind of like, okay, hurt people, blah blah blah, they're going through this, they're going through that, I can't stay in, like, I can't expect them to be my savior, but I also am not going to enable the parts in them that are susceptible to perpetuate harm. And what you may or may not have been aware of is, even by the merit of the trauma that you've been put through, you might have not been aware of the power and rank of the people around, and or the full extent of that. And then as you became more and more aware, because things began to fall like a domino, people began to expose each other, people began to even try to appeal to authority or to use their authority. And what happened is that you were like, okay, if you are in power in face of this connection, or in face of this situation, then hey, yield your power to abolish those type of trauma rights. And if you're not, then you, the collective, okay, if somebody else is not, and you're the collective, kind of saying, okay, let's stop this trauma stuff at our generations. Let's be the full stop to those trauma cycles. And at least you decided to say, okay, I'm not tending to perpetuate. Actually, in as much as I can, I'm going to change, transmute, hold accountable, and put a full stop to the perpetuation of evil. And by holding on to your truth and deepening your truth, you both curate your own relational pattern and maintain this amiable disposition where people can't be mad at you for long, and they begin to, next to you, they kind of face their shadow, or they have to keep it accountable next to you, because you're not going to pretend, you're not going to fake it, okay? Even if it is something erotic, okay? You're not going to be faking, and you're also not going to be falling into patterns where perhaps even in the past you may have had an episode or a situation in your life where you didn't know what those things are, and you did fall into patterns, and because you have healed that, meeting this global mundane issue again on an even bigger scale, you're actually the not beacon of light, but definitely this kind of, okay, that person is holding on to their truth, and what they're not doing um, is um, is perpetuating. They're actually putting a full stop to trauma cycles. So in this regard, what you're ending up being is everybody has to stand to the fact that you speak the truth, you are the truth, and they have to align themselves accordingly, or make sure that not only they don't disturb you, but that you are not disturbed by any of that MK Ultra thingy. Now, for some of you, it may have gone all the way to housing or job or business, or and there were a lot of measures, okay? There are measures to target people and so on, and you, the collective, just stood up to your truth, which ended up kind of um, collectively creating a domino effect where everything that relied on whatever you will enable under this trauma bond became your being the beacon of exposure that is absolutely not holding hater energy. And not only that, you became the beacon of exposure in a way that is actually fair. If there is, you will not just expose, let's say, the person, but also the rituals behind it, or the MK Ultra scenario behind it, particularly the invisible or the psychic stuff. So instead of falling into scenarios, you began to expose mechanisms and structures that are of hidden nature and completely unravel any type of social engineering. Now, here's the thing. I talk about genuine, amiable feelings and so on. Well, what you, the collective, need to understand is every such scenario is something that there are people who spend decades creating. I'll just give you an example. When I attended to political assassination prevention, cold case Peter Ort was about a boy named Peter, and it was when Peter R. de Vries was a young a journalist, cold cases journalist, that looked at then cold case. That was 40 years ago, I believe, and they took a guy named Peter, and the name of the journalist was Peter, and that Peter was a young boy that was kidnapped in a car, orange car. The car went through JFK Street and then Churchill Street in Netherlands. The streets in Netherlands don't usually carry such English names. And at that time, where Peter looked at the Peter case, JFK would be associated with Peter R. de Vries, and Churchill with two other politicians, both of which would have been in opposition to Peter R. de Vries at the short time where he would run to politics. And so the assassination of Peter R. de Vries would occur 40 years later. So just so that you understand how many decades each and every scenario is being worked on, and this might be the reason that you, the collective, may find yourself in juxtapositions that neither you nor the people around you fully understand. And it attracts curiosity from a lot of people, as well as mixed emotions, because you are basically, and again, it is by the merit of the fact that you've dedicated time, perhaps decades, to curate things in yourself and in your relational patterns and so on, independently of the systems that you were supposed to give your power to when trying to heal yourself. And that can create mixed emotions with the people that didn't have the exposure, the privilege to do that, even though they're coming from more wealthy echelons. Which only stirs up, again, amiable feelings within you, and at the same time not squashing or giving up your truth. And not giving up the intricacy, okay, not trying to be redundant with something that is intricate, but also not enabling further perpetration of those trauma-based timelines, but in fact diverting the spotlight at the mechanisms that creates them and at the positions of power of the people that can actually do something to change that in this at this time. Very likely they couldn't when they were children, but when they are right now the world leaders or the decision makers, they are the transition of wealth and power is going to be to their hands, and it's in their hands to defund MK Ultra. It's in their hands to change certain trajectories, and even, there's so many paths that are opening to really make a difference that is favorable for humanity. And you, the collective, are like a Trojan horse of love, in the sense that You don't come with hater energy, um, but you do stand in your truth, and everybody has to face whatever, whatever. First of all, they have to come to terms to the fact that you're not playing games, you're not doing the double, you're not, and for some of them, you might be the very first person they meet in those contexts and those scenarios that doesn't wear a mask. And what's underneath the non-existing mask is not a game player. Now, those people are used to mask or act normal in front of the public, but they're not used to do that in those scenarios. And then they have a person that by this time they would have believed is an absolute, one of the people that would go a certain trajectory, but this person is not really falling to any category, um, and that can be it's now some of you collective can have something that looks very elusive around you. You might have a Neptune midheaven, Neptune ascendant, Neptune with ruler of the ascendant, Neptune transit in midheaven or ascendant, significant Neptune transits, because that can create, it's the conjoining of the illusion that is being around you, that you are a part of certain things that you're not a part of, and the fact that authentically you're not a part of that, but you've been put in a situation where you stand your truth, so people kind of really wonder if you are real or not. And so some of your collective might even understand that, which actually um, perhaps curates even certain things, or reminds you of certain things. You just had to like surrender your reputation or surrender this or surrender that, um, around how people perceive you, and now they're kind of being caught in their own web of whatever they projected onto you. Now, there is another layer to this, which is a lot of people that are playing the double and thought that they could recruit you to their side, supposedly by the merit of doing right, didn't get to, because you see through the veil, and you're not just going to be, um, like you're addressing things not on a surface level. And so it's more challenging to make you like, you know, how should I say that? Sometimes people use people in wars between them, and then like, okay, uh, bye bye, the person, but that's also not you. You stand to your truth, and the truth is structural. So a lot of them at this point, when the human brain deals with new data that they don't know how to compartmentalize, it will try to find the closest approximation to compartmentalize. And as they begin to do that, the picture that begins to unfold is more and more scary, because the closest approximations, um, how should I say that? First of all, the closest approximations um, created a situation where a lot of scenarios that were supposed to enslave humanity had to press full stop. And I'm being very tender. At the same time, you're not even a part of the trajectory or even the deep state in a way that those figures were. So you're not even subjected to the prohibitions, and you never took an oath from many of you. And that is something that, and at the same time, you're absolutely not a hater. And at the same time, those communities understand that to sustain, they can't really dish the collective away, because your understanding and ability to bridge things without giving up your truth actually sweetens the verdict for some people, and some begin to understand that it sweetens the verdict for everyone, but it does not withhold justice or fairness, in the sense that it does not enable further perpetuation of evil. And in a way, that has been your power, that even though that has been your power, it's not a power that you execute in the sense of abuse of power. You simply stand in your truth, and that's your power, because the more you stand in your truth, the more the dominoes begin to unfold around you in a way that people can't be mad at you for long. And then there are people around those people, whether within and around those people that were involved with all kinds of scenarios, they begin to see almost reconciliation energy with Chiron in Aries here and Andromeda constellation. It seemed to be reconciliation vibes, but without the lack of accountability part. And those energies around begin to be quite concerned, worried, not really, and again, it's not concerned, worried like, oh my God, you're dangerous. The other way around, you're actually the remediation to this, and they've just never seen that. They've just never seen that, because they were taught to believe that people like you are either losers or playing the double, and you're neither. Now, to add to that, there is some sort of a Neptunian energy that really does make it, people really do wonder if you are real or not. Right, the merit of this Neptunian that puts you in almost mythical placements that even you might not be either fully aware of, or like you might be asking, wait, is this real? And your non-attachment because of that further contributes to your standing in your truth. And so what begins to unravel is that people watching the reconciliation energies around you and are like, that can't be real. You two didn't just like, what happened? And at the same time, those reconciliations are not lack of accountability. You will just, and you're the collective, like, you will stand in your truth, whether the person that is, let's say you stand in your truth and you give credit to people that had something to say that you believe is true. So if that person harmed you or wronged you, it's like you're not going to be with them, but you're also not going to begin to go against what they said that you find true. If that person is really amiable and having a good rapport with you, you're like, hey, that's so cool. You're not going to begin to um, enable their lack of accountability to hoard stuff they were involved with. Okay? But you will also not demonize them. Rather you would expose the structure and mechanism behind where they play a certain role in. Um, so this is where, now let's see. Let's see how is our video doing. So this is where you happen to have those energy of a person that will just stand in their truth. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. Let's hope it keeps that way. Now, as you understand, those things create ripples of energy and frequency, and however isolated you may seem to be, you're absolutely not the only one, and everybody that is sent to kind of like interact with your energy has to purify their own field, um, and to the level of difficulty that it is for them, it is going to be, how should I say that? If it is very difficult for them to purify their field, they might prefer to, and some of them even prefer to take a step back, but you kind of held them accountable to what they were about to do or what they partook in. So they had to clear their act around you. You seem so for you, the collective, you seem to hold this thing where people have to clean their act around you sooner than later. And for many of them, you might be the first person they have to genuinely and authentically clean their act around. Because all they've known is people who play the double. And the more they're seeking to expose you, the more they are basically exposing the rituals and schemes that were made around you. And then some of them might even share their gnosis. Even if it's not specifically to you, they will share their gnosis. For example, there were rituals done on the real estate before wars and military operations to enable democide. And for you, collective, this might resonate. Particularly if your ability to earn an income, or all of these attempts that is a part of targeted individuals and so on. And even when it comes to, I talk about MK Ultra, there are several litigations, including countries, including very likely even NATO, that are taking place. So for you, the collective, the more people will delay clearing their act around you, basically they might find themselves entangled in those litigations as the litigated, because for you, the collective, you simply did not cooperate with certain type of democides. And I know it sounds big, but you'd be surprised how much real estate is involved. You'd be surprised how many fields of work are involved. You'd be so and when those programs are enacted, um, is basically how should I say that? It's kind of like a part of a big scandal or a big thing, and the more people try to um, delay clearing up their act around you, the collective, basically um, what happens is that you stand in your truth, and many Googleplex people are standing in their truth, particularly as they expanded, like, individual, targeted individuals and so on. And a lot of programs even have to stop. So what's happening is that what's left is, hey, what about that real estate? Hey, what about this field or this line of work? Hey, what about, um, the compensations for the people that were targeted individuals? Um, hey, what about the war crimes? Hey, what about what was the purpose of those rituals? So there are many things that the more people delay clearing up their act, they begin to have to deal with more and more people that become informed of what was done to their businesses, and begin to understand as one people collective helping one another to demystify the many things that have been taking place that have been affecting businesses, affecting income, putting people in life risking situations. Yes, trafficking attempts, downright trafficking, illegally filming people, astral espionage that begins to get caught red-handed by actual psychics that understand that, hey, let's say somebody is a channeler, okay? Now this channel a message for the collective, and that message has been infiltrated. Immediately they have to clean up their act and reputation, and post the real message, which begins to expose more things around that. Now there is another person and another person, and people sometimes watch each other and they're like, oh, okay, one talks about that ritual, okay, one talks about that aspect. And even the people that were holding a frequency of fear around that begin to understand more and more trajectories, and stand in their power. So you, the collective, is not only you standing in your power, but everybody that's reading the energy around you begins to stand in their power as well. And that is very antithetical to the rituals that were done around each and every one of you to make you lose followers, lose views, lose clients, lose reputation, and so on and so forth. What it leaves exposed is actually those people that the bigger part they played in more and more consciously cooperating with those okay, with those schemes. Basically, it takes them longer to clean up their act. Saturn, okay, Saturn being Saturn. Um, and because they to set the boundaries that they need to set to protect their businesses or their estates, they need to face what caused um, needing to create that boundary. Now, for some of them, they might even be dissociated, and there is an actual issue of recovery from ritual abuse. Um, okay, and for some of them, there is an actual issue where they may have played a more conscious part, and they have to clean up their act, particularly if they're involved in housing or with real estate, estate owners, real estate deals. Um, Simply because it's masonry, okay? So think about Epstein Island is a real estate. So those people might take a bit longer to clean up their act, but they will still have to clean up their act. And this is the energy in the collective where people begin to understand that when there is a screening on Windsor Castle of the relationship between Trump and Epstein, um, the we the people part of Pluto in Aquarius is we the peopling. And what's unique about you, the collective, is that you have an insight to the mind control, um, the mechanism, the psychic levels of operation that can actually remediate a lot of the mess that people get caught up in, both psychically and physically, okay, being on Epstein lists and so on. But yes, they will have to come to terms with the fact that it's the get away with phase has expired, and this is basically Pluto in Aquarius doing Pluto in Aquarius, only that it's out of bounds. Um, so it's even more Plutoing. So what do I have to say? Um, yes, people are gonna have to come to terms with the fact that um, that you are not only you. It's like there are Googleplex people for whom those things are not, and the more energy, Moon moving to the 23rd degree of Leo, the more energy they have to put in um, trying to basically harm you, the more they are getting tangled in the web that they created to try to tangle you in while you stand in your truth. Um, and and they being caught up in the web that they were trying to set up for you, the collective. Um, so yes, so what does it mean for you? It means that um, the world would kind of have to adjust to accommodate for the truth that you are bringing. Um, it also means that you are growing and learning about the intricacies. And it also means that um, just like on a local level, if a person is trying to tangle someone in an unhealthy relationship dynamic, the more efforts they make, the more they basically expose their endeavors, then this works on a mundane level as well, because the more efforts being made to try to, um, you know, to hide things or to paint you, the collective, in a certain light, basically people are going to be interested, and they're going to look into that with the discernment of Aquarius. Now here's the deal, because of the Neptune issue, it does take a while, but because Neptune is also about many people around the world being secluded, then people begin to get the gist of it and are like, okay, you're one of those secluded people. Um, and so if I think about, for example, trauma survivors having laughter at the very tragic points of the story, and people that are not used to that kind of thinking, what's up with that person? I saw Landra getting that a lot. Um, and because it's happening to so many people, people begin to see that there's something here, and they begin to have more experience with listening to people that survive tremendous trauma, and have a laughter in funny places, particularly now when the Palestinians are beginning to speak, and the and or the Gen Zers, and they begin to kind of in the beginning they kept the representative people, but then they will see the people suddenly laugh like in places where they're not supposed to be funny, and so on. That's not a person being a psychopath, that's actually a trauma response. So this is another thing where uh, people that couldn't understand something begin to look with discernment, and they also begin to be exposed to enough survivors to begin to see by experience. It's almost like learning a new language. Mercury moving to 1 degree Libra, Mercury language, Venus in Leo visibility, Sun in Virgo. Okay, the public visibility and the language and the phrasing, the tonation, Mercury Libra. So people begin to learn how to listen to testimonies. And if in the past the one sounding the best could act normal and be Nazi, now people hold accountable and don't blame people in, how do you call it, reactive abuse when they respond to Nazis. Okay. Yes, it might be useful to know that the ideology and occult practices that are taking part in those MK Ultra, including the the origin of the original scientists with the paperclip project, is basically Nazi. Okay, so that was and everybody Nazi. Okay, so that was what I was referring to when I was saying that. Um, Naturally, not everybody Nazi, but those people around are basically subjected to. When I say Nazi, any ideology that's based on traditional family values juxtaposed with slavery, juxtaposed with oppressing women's rights under the guise of traditional family values, juxtaposed with they don't normalize pedophilia as much anymore, but those type of things is Nazi. I know that those Nazi ideologies were very much in alignment with the wealth consolidation by families that excluded women and believed in slavery, and funded both sides of civil wars. Um, Brazil, nothing to do with Brazil. Anyway, um, so what people are coming to terms with as Venus is about to ingress into Virgo. The usual stuff. Whatever she was wearing in the concentration camps, everybody was wearing the same things and died horrible deaths. So perhaps it doesn't matter what she's wearing, she's still deserving of respect as a person would want to when they are wearing things that they didn't choose to wear. Um, and there's a lot of orthodoxy that talks about tzniut or modesty. Mormons also have that. It's like there was no. If we don't behave to a person with respect, regardless of what they're wearing, then everybody will wear the same things and will be entitled to the same respect. Mind you, during the Second World War, there are death and concentration camps in the U.S. During the Second World War, how should I say that? Everybody was Jew. Okay? You'll think that, oh, that was the Jews. It's not only the Jews, it's the disabled. Okay, let's put it that way. Your Christian Catholic neighbor that goes to church every Sunday would piss off another neighbor. They would become perfectly Jew in a minute. The Pope. And the Pope is litigated for human trafficking. Not the dead one, the current one. And with Opus Dei and the Mormons, um, like I said, Pluto out of bounds is definitely, yes, they might declare themselves prisoner of war in the Vatican again. It worked the last time. So, but they do turn the fire against Trump. I haven't been watching all the episodes from the Basilica, St. Peter. So, yes, the world is whirling. And think about it. A lot of you might be the people where when everybody around you began to praise Catholicism, you were like that neurodivergent person in the group that doesn't get the gist, and people were trying to like, and then like, well, the Pope is being litigated for human trafficking. What do you want? Child trafficking? I have no idea. um, but this is yes, they inherited a bank. It's the Vatican Bank, and they have to make the bank profitable. I don't know how they're going to do that. Like, think about people's problems. If somebody inherited a bank and have to keep it profitable, and usually their life depends on that, so it's kind of like, um, perhaps even prefer to. um, yeah. So, collective. Um, yes, this is a time where a lot of you have been feeling like you're amidst a very satirical course of events, because the world is very funny. Um, I tended to, if you watch my October astrology video, you will understand how funny in terms of the jurisdictions and all of the really, really cool things happening um, around the ICJ. Um, oh, amazing. So, okay. So, this is what I have to say, and um, this is the how about those things happen. So, there's a domino effect around, yes, you, the collective, as well as awareness that, um, particularly with those with that Neptune aspect, it kind of creates a legacy beyond life as well. And I think the people around are beginning to understand that. Okay, I just think, um, and they're beginning to understand that they might not want to turn you into a true crime case, because that would be the type of things that perhaps will be carrying a legacy for centuries, and they won't be able to get a hold of what narrative. So, particularly those of you with Neptune midheaven, 12th house placements, even 12th house transits, ascendant Neptune transits. Okay, this is a point where a person can have kind of a mythical role, um, and not to take away from the isolation that people feel around that, because it's kind of like being caught in a certain situation. But this is also where the understanding that the things that people thought that they could keep hidden, the more efforts they make to keep something hidden, the more it's like present in its absence. Um, and and the more people try to have control over how you will be portrayed, they run into um, the the understanding that not only you, the collective, have surrendered how your public image is portrayed, but also they need to. Particularly if it's Neptune 10th house, Neptune crossing the 10th house. Um, and so for you, the collective, a lot of you are kind of like figuring it out. It's like, well, I can't control how people see me. I can talk about like structure, um, or smear campaigns or whatnot, but it's more than that. It's not much that is possible to do. Now, the people that are really, really obsessed about portraying you in a certain way have to surrender the results. And they're finding out, some of them are finding this out now, because their entire agenda depended on portraying you in a certain way, and it looks like whatever card they play, they have to surrender what would be the